Hey, this is Mr. Miller. I'm going to be taking you through notes number 1 for the Maya today. Alright, so the first thing I want to show you was just a couple slides showing a few major cities created by the Maya. And a lot of these cities were in the middle of a place called the Yucatan Peninsula. This city right here is called Palenque, and this was a building called the Palace. So presumably it was made for some sort of local ruler or king. This is Chichen Itza. Cool thing about this pyramid here is that each of the stairs has either 91 or 92 steps leading to the top, 4 sides, so there are a total of 365 steps on this pyramid. The Maya paid close attention to the stars, to the sun, to the rotation of the earth, and a lot of their buildings reflected this knowledge. This is Tikal. Again, another pyramid, and it's interesting to note that these pyramids were usually covered in a lot of different colors. Right now they're sort of plain and look just like stone, but originally they were painted and decorated, richly colored. So let's set the stage. The first people came to the Americas, that is North and South America, through the Bering Land Bridge. You can see that over in the picture to the right. They crossed over, and the way they were able to cross over is that during an ice age the sea level dropped and it exposed a lot of land, and so people were able to go from Asia and walk into North America. These people were were hunter-gatherers, meaning that they would hunt for their food and forage. They moved around, usually following packs of animals that they hunted. And eventually these people formed sedentary village communities, that is, that they stopped moving around and started farming, and the crop that they mostly farmed was corn. Here we have a picture of corn. And corn's important because the people were able to take corn, dry it, and save it for later. So its ability to stay for long periods of time was really important for those sedentary communities, meaning they could grow the corn during one season and then store it during the off season. Now into Central America we have the Maya, and the Maya lasted from 2000 BCE to 900 CE. So way before the Roman Empire on one end, and then into the Middle Ages, if we were to look at Europe, into the start of the Middle Ages in Europe. So that's nearly 3,000 years, which is an incredibly long time when you consider the United States has only been around for around 230 years or so. This civilization, the Maya, were inspired by Olmec, an even more ancient civilization, who had built cities in this area, the Yucatan Peninsula, ceremonial centers, and had a solar calendar. We'll get to that in just a second. And it's this zone right here, the Yucatan Peninsula, which had jungle in the north and highlands in the south. This is an Olmec carving right here, and we can see fairly sophisticated sculpture techniques, and the cool thing is that this was just in the jungle, and we really don't know what this is depicting besides maybe some sort of human or god, and we don't know where the Olmecs found the stone to make these heads. So Olmecs overall are kind of mysterious people for us. The Mayan civilization is divided into 3 main periods. The first one is the pre-classic, which is 2000 BCE to 300 CE, quite a long period there. And during this time, the Maya farmed land, lived in simple houses and groups of buildings. Then around 50 BCE, they adapted the Olmec writing system to their own culture, and they used hieroglyphics or glyphs or symbols for their writing. You can see an example of this right here along the top of this picture. Getting to the second period here is the Classic, which is from 300 to 900 CE. During this period, the Maya built enormous stone cities, and the interesting thing is that they did these huge cities and temples and pyramids all without the use of the wheel or metal tools. So they relied upon manual labor. A huge chunk of the population was dedicated to making these stone monuments and cities and temples and pyramids. They constructed observatories for studying the moon, stars, and planets, and they used their knowledge to create highly accurate calendars. For example, the sacred round here, this is kind of showing the system of their calendar, and it's a series of wheels, one inside the other, and they spin and they correlate with each other, and you could have, for example, Jaguar 13 would be a particular day. So the Jaguar symbol and the 13 number. The days, there were 13 days in a week, 20 days in a month, and then a 365 day solar year. Continuing with the Classic, the Mayan society, unlike what we would say with the Roman Empire, was more similar to the Greek city-states during ancient times or the Italian city-states during the Renaissance, meaning that the Maya were composed of a bunch of semi-independent city-states. It wasn't just one giant empire. It was more of a culture or society that were somewhat linked together. And the cities were divided, if we look at one individual city, were divided into regions or social classes. We'd have peasants on the outside and the more important people towards the center, like the rulers or the nobles. Again, this is another look at Palenque. This would be the center of the city. And finally we get to post-classic, which is from 900 to 1500 CE. Around 900 CE, the classic civilization collapsed, and buildings and cities were abandoned, especially in the middle of the Yucatan. And no one really knows why this happened, but some archaeologists suspect that it had to do with a long period of drought, and the cities were so populated that the crops that they were growing could not support the amount of people in the cities, so the people just left. And on the northern Yucatan Peninsula, the cities continued to prosper after 900, though they weren't quite as impressive as that Classic period, up until the arrival of the Spanish. Then everything changed. Let's take just a brief look at the science of the Mayans. The first thing is that they built observatories for watching the stars, as I mentioned. Another thing is they developed a number system that included the concept of zero, which is really kind of an original idea, the concept of nothingness. Many other civilizations lack this idea, and they record their knowledge in codex or codices, which were big books. Unfortunately, the Spanish, after they came in, burned almost all of them, and we only have around 3 left today. For religion, they believed in many gods. They were polytheistic. The rulers were priest-kings, meaning that they were both religious and political leaders, and the religious buildings were at the center of the city. That's where all the action happened, and temples were usually formed with pyramids or in pyramid shape, and human sacrifices were performed at these pyramids. This is just a quick look at the human sacrifice here going on in the center. And finally, taking a look at trade and business, the Maya did trade with nearby regions. They traded surplus items or extra items such as honey, cocoa, beans, colored feathers, jaguar pelts, and rubber. Thanks for watching. That's it.